Hi there, welcome to Umek Real Estate Construction Services Limited, a third generation building design and construction company in Nigeria with a vision to bring your dream homes into reality. On this channel, we demystify building construction projects, giving you real-time cost of various projects in 2023 Nigerian construction market. Today, our focus is on this luxury 6-bedroom duplex with a penthouse located in Abia State, Nigeria. First of all, we are going to talk about different things concerning this project. First, the design and what influenced it, the construction journey and the choices made from the foundation to the DPC, as well as the cost it took us to arrive at this stage. First, let's talk about the design. The design of this project was influenced by the client's desire for a unique design. This implied playing with different forms and shapes to come up with a unique design. Of course, we're willing to try different things, and of course, we believed we were equal to the task. This led us to having different designs, which we finally came up with something that has a better buildability to ensure that it is constructible when we get to the site. By the end of the design stage, we came up with this unique design, which is simple and combines different forms and shapes as our final design for the project. The construction of the substructure of this project comprised of different activities, which includes the setting out. At the setting out stage, of course, we had to peg the building around, putting in the profiles, as well as marking out all the foundation, as well as the block lines for the project. This, of course, helped us to bring out the foundation trenches and help us to mount our pillars and, of course, set out the building from the foundation. The next is the excavation stage. The second activity we had to undertake for the construction is the excavation. At this excavation stage, we found out that the ground upon which we were to work was very rocky. This was good and bad because for the people doing excavation, of course, you can see we excavated by hand. It was a very difficult task. But for the building itself, it was a good thing because, of course, you know that when you load the building and it's on a solid rock, then you have no fear that it will stand the test of time. After the excavation, which lasted for 3 days, the next activity was to level the foundation trenches, which is a method of pegging to determine the level of our foundation cover and also to ensure that it has a plumb level when we are done casting the foundation. This activity was done in parallel with the excavation of the column bases and, of course, planting the columns itself. By the time the planting of the columns had been accomplished, the next thing was the casting of the foundation trenches. The casting of these foundation trenches, as you can see, was done with the local stones. Now, in this part of the country, what is predominantly used in casting of foundation, in concreting, is the local stone, which they call iron stone. And the strength is comparable to the granite that is normally used in other parts of the country. By the time the casting of foundation trenches had finished, then we started the setting out of blocks from the foundation. Now, there's one thing that was unique about this project. That is that most activities ran in parallel. For instance, as we were casting most of the foundation trenches, the block work for some lines started while the casting of some other foundation trench lines were still ongoing. As we were laying the blocks to determine the DPC level, it became obvious that to achieve a level DPC ground, some places had to take as high as 9 courses of blocks. Man, this wasn't an easy thing. Now, this high foundation has its own problems, which we'll talk about in another video. But for now, the important thing is that we had as high as 9 courses of block to determine the DPC, while some other parts of the foundation had as little as 3 blocks. This was as a result of the topography of the land, because we noticed that the slope was steep, such that Having 3 blocks at one end resulted to having as high as 9 courses of block at the other end. Now, if you're familiar with building projects, you will understand that 9 courses of block is more like the height of the lintel. That's the height of the door. So that means before we even came out of foundation, we've laid blocks that got up to the height of the lintel of most buildings. This, of course, had a high cost impact on the project in terms of the cost of the iron rods that will be used for the chaining, the cost of the concrete that will be used to cast the chaining, and of course the cost of the filling material that are going to go into that DPC to be able to achieve that height. By implication, the next activity for this project was the chaining of the DPC, particularly at the affected areas where the blocks were as high as from 6 and above. And this involved iron work, carpentry work, as well as concrete work to ensure that the whole foundation is bound together so that when the sand compacts, it will not break or remove any part of the foundation at that level. When the preparatory work was done, the casting was done to bind all the columns as well as the chaining beams together, holding the foundation and all its components together before the filling starts. When this was accomplished, the next was the filling of the foundation space with sharp sand or laterite in order to get to the agreed DPC level. The filling sand for this project was really difficult to get. In fact, it was one of the major constraints we had during the project. This was because of the availability of the trucks and, of course, the nature of the roads within the locality this project was sited. The filling was also priced per space and was done with hand, that's shoveling it into the foundation space. By the end of the day, it was observed that the filling of the foundation space took more than 900 tons of sand to accomplish. When the filling had been accomplished, the next was to water the whole filling sand within all the spaces that have been filled and leave it to naturally compact by itself. So we did this a number of days. The first day we watered it and left it. By the time we came in the morning, everything had settled. Then we filled it again and watered the whole thing again. Then we now saw the places that needed extra sand, then watered it again before we started compacting the whole space. This was done to ensure uniform compartment below the DPC level, such that by the end of the day, when the building is standing, you will not have the feeling of an empty space below the DPC, which could lead to differential settlement of whatever load that is being laid on the DPC. After the watering and compacting of the filled sand, then the next thing is preparing the foundation area for the DPC, which includes the boarding by the carpenter in readiness for the casting of the DPC. One of the unique things about this project is that it involved a lot of manual work. That was because of the location as well as the resources available to us to deliver the project as at that time. The carpentry work at the DPC level is another tricky one because this involved taking a level at one end and transferring the level to the other end to ensure that by the end of the carpentry work and the DPC has been cast, that the foundation is relatively at the same level when you use a plumb level. When the carpenter had finished and ensured that each side is braced very well, then the casting began. As shown, the aggregate used for the casting of this DPC, as well as every other concrete work in this building, was the local stone, which is predominant within the area and locality. Now that everything is set, all preparations are down for the casting of the DPC. It is worthy of note that the casting of DPC was also done manually, which was done per bag at the average price of 1,000 naira per bag. So, in summary, the construction of this approximately 462 square meters luxury duplex from foundation to DPC level taking into account the topography and material constraints in today's Nigerian construction market, will cost between 12 to 16 million naira to accomplish. Finally, thank you for sticking with us as we continue to demystify building design and construction in Nigeria, answering all your questions and helping you bring that your dream home into accomplishment. See you in our next one.